justice for all. Thank you very much. Approval of minutes for meeting of February 23rd and March 8th. Do we have both of them in the?
Yes, we do.
Need a motion?
Move.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Board Member Bieneme. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0. Item number 4.
Good afternoon. On March 23rd, 2016, Larry M. Spring Jr. became the city manager of the city of North Miami. Additionally, Mr. Spring will take on the role of the CRA executive director with a supplemental salary of $20,000 per year for services provided to the North Miami CRA. Staff recommends approval of this request. This item was presented to the advisory board, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
And second for discussion.
Discussion.
Okay.
And we all know in 2012 a resolution was passed by the city council to automatically make the city manager the executive director for the CRA. And are you comfortable on
Through
in both
through
positions?
through the chair, if you will, allow me.
Go ahead.
Again, I know this item is being brought forth for myself to be executive director, and I'm ready to take on those duties and responsibilities. Jokingly, I think I'm probably the cheapest executive director in the history of CRAs in the state of Florida. But as part of what I want to bring forward, and I did not have full time to bring this initiative forward. I think I referred to it at the advisory board meeting that we wanted to bring on a permanent full-time director, if you will, to run the CRA. And I wanted to recommend that Rasha be appointed, or make that decision to appoint Rasha to that position. I understand she's been here. She's done a great job of moving forward the agenda, getting our plan together, and we want to make sure we move on that. So I have someone who has day-to-day responsibility over the CRA to help me in managing both the city and the CRA operations. So just wanted to put that on the record before we move forward with the item.
Mr. Chairman, through you to
Wait,
Mr.
did you
Spring?
finish? That was your?
No, I can
Right.
wait and see what he's
Go ahead.
That was going to be my question. How long are we going to be without an executive director? What was the vision for the long term? Are you suggesting tonight that instead of adopting the $20,000 for you, we should instead be appointing Rasha as the CRA director? Because if so, we need to re-advertise this item, in my opinion. But what are you directly suggesting?
Well, my suggestion was to continue to follow with what the resolution was of the board, which is to have the city manager serve as the executive director, similar to Hollandale Beach, and I think there's a few other jurisdictions that have the city manager as that official role, but then they appoint a member of their management team as the day-to-day director that deals with plan issues and items and helps the manager actually manage the CRA.
So this item here doesn't speak to
It
that
doesn't speak to
setup.
that. That was just me bringing forth that my operational plan for the CRA to help me manage it was to bring her on full-time.
So if we were to follow this through, we'll appoint you CRA director,
Executive director.
executive director, for $20,000 spread out through now and the end of the budget year.
It will actually be an annual amount.
Well, then, I guess that's why I'm getting confused. How long, start from scratch, because you're complicating this thing. That's not what's been advertised here. It's not in the plan here. So explain what you wanted to do, and Steve's waving his finger over here, so do we just want to yank this and punt it?
No. I wanted to shed a little more background onto this because
Okay.
Board Member Bienemy actually referenced in 2012, the board adopted a resolution that basically appoints the city manager as the executive director of the North North Miami Community Redevelopment Agency. So that's an automatic. Whenever you all hire a new city manager, that city manager is automatically, bless you, sir, is automatically becomes your executive director of your CRA. The item before you tonight is to approve a $20,000 per year stipend for the services that Mr. Spring will provide as the executive director. As the executive director, in the bylaws of the CRA, the executive director is empowered then to hire and fire all of the employees of the North Miami CRA.
Okay.
So what Mr. Spring is basically telling you is, as part of his plan as the executive director, he wants to hire Ms. Camo as his day-to-day operations person with whatever title, you wanted to give her. But that's something that's within her purview. It doesn't need to be advertised. It's not a decision that the board would make.
Okay, then we're complicating the issue before us tonight by
Yes.
even bringing that up, to
Well.
me. I mean, because we're here to vote on whether or not to appoint our CRA, our city manager as our CRA executive director, so.
Okay, well,
And,
I'm trying to
it-
complicate the matter. for you.
Mr. City Attorney, what we are doing here is not appointing Mr. Larry Springs as the new executive director of the CRA. No. The 2012 resolution automatically
Correct.
make Mr. Larry Spring as our executive director.
Correct.
All we are doing is said, okay, you the executive director,
Pending.
and we wanna pending final approval, and we wanna give you a stipend of $20,000. That's when you need to be compensated. But at the same time as his plan, he said, while he's the executive director, he make us aware that he wanna hire and Mrs. Rasha Camo as the director for the CRA. And I even can go further and ask the board to approve this resolution with an amendment that Mrs. Rasha Camo will be the executive director of the CRA, if that's the will of the board.
Wait,
May
can
I
I-
say
oh,
something,
yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Okay, I don't know if appointing Rasha is a decision that comes before us. That's within his purview,
Correct.
right? So I think we
Correct.
need to scratch that and focus on the resolution before us approving his 20,000 and whatever that he wants to do. He
Fine,
could just do
okay.
whatever.
It just make us
I'm just
aware of
making
that.
this-
It-
Okay,
It
thank
is
you.
correct?
I was just making you aware.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
May I
Well,
say
now, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, yeah, I agree with Councilman Galvin and Somi that really all we're supposed to be doing this evening is ratifying a salary. As far as Ms. Camo, she's doing a good job. I do believe she works for another city at this time. Are you no longer? Okay, I didn't know if you were still with the other city. And the other thing is I would like to make sure, one, that we have this item budgeted. And two, I hate to make, unless we need that full-time, until we get approved for the CRA, going forward, if we're gonna go, we are going forward. If we're approved for CRA, yes, we need to hire somebody full-time and get moving. If we're not, I'm trying to, take whatever money we have and use it for good purposes remaining for the city. So, it's not up to me, it's totally up to you, but that's just, I'm saying that out in the open, that would be my preference. And make sure it is a budgeted item.
Let me say something. First of all, it's in the budget, and for a director. Secondly, we are spending the money. All the stipends for for all the other people working for the city, even the secretary is getting paid, having stipends from the budget, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of people are getting paid. When you add the money that she's getting paid as a temporary employee, when you add all the stipends that other people are receiving, and I think the money is there. We're just gonna eliminate all those stipends and then give her a salary as a director for the
She's still
CRA.
gonna remain employed and doing what she's doing. I don't know what stipends we're talking about, and I haven't seen the budget, but that, is going to be, Mr. Springs?
If I'm not mistaken, even the executive secretary of the city manager is getting stipend for work
but
she's
this-
done for the CRA. That's when a lot of people are getting paid.
I
When
haven't-
you
I
when
haven't
you
seen the-
eliminate all those stipends, and when you looking at how much money she's getting paid for being a temporary employee,
I haven't seen
when
an
you
accounting of what we're
exactly, but
spending, so
when
I
you
don't
add
know.
all that plus and the position is in the budget, and as a matter of fact, we are saving when you take out all those small and 10,000 here, 5,000 here from the budget, from the secretary, all those people. That's when you add that to actual salary, I think the budget is there, the money is there to make her the director of the CRA.
I didn't know this issue was coming up, so I haven't reviewed the budget, so I don't have those numbers in my head. So
No.
I can't speak on it.
Because what we could do now, tonight, we need to understand, we could do two things. And it's higher, first of all, as the city manager, we want to give Mr. Spring a stipend to oversee the CRA. That's what it is. But at the same time, I agree with your proposal to bring Mrs. Rasha Kamo, who's been working for the city for so long, and she has been doing a very good job as our temporary employee. And I'm glad that in a few months that you've been here, you recognize the work that she has been doing for the city, and I will be in favor of that proposal. And you're going to oversee the CRA, but at the same time make her the director for the CRA. I don't think that's our decision to do so, unless we're going to recall the 2012 resolution to hire another executive director for the CRA, a completely different ball game, or Mr. Spring will oversee the CRA with a stipend of $20,000, and like you said on record, and Mrs. Camo, and from your recommendation that she become the director for the CRA, and I think that's will be a good
Okay.
thing for the city.
Now, I'm going to let you speak in a few. What kind of salary are we talking about?
I have not gone through those details as of yet because taking into consideration what you said, the issue of the budgetary items, I was just making you aware that my operational plan was to get someone long-term. We are still going through the process with the county, and things are looking very good because I've been checking in with them. As recently as today, I spoke with officials from the county regarding our application, and things seem to be progressing well. So, you know, those matters I'll have to get back.
Okay, now my other point is that we have to, if we're going to do it, it's not a matter of being for or against, but I don't like the way it is being presented. You know, I wish that, you know, we've met before. I wish that you had met with each and every one of us and let us know what your plan is. At least, you know, I wouldn't come here and just be caught off guard, you know, with this issue and have to deal with it, like this. You know, that makes our meeting a lot longer, because if I am to make a decision, I have to make a decision, an educated decision based on my research and so forth. But does anyone know? I know that the resolution of 2012 say that the position would be automatically filled by our city manager, but does it give the authority to the manager to appoint a director?
No, and what the resolution? Oh, nothing.
No, that's
Legal question, thank you. I drafted the 2012 resolution. That resolution was drafted in order to alleviate the CRA of having a separate executive director who was paid a tremendous salary of over $200,000 a year. So it was a cost-cutting measure. It also brought in the city manager, who had more knowledge of what was going on within the city, so that there would be some synergy there between the city and the CRA. What happens, though, is that the city manager typically has tremendous duties to the city, and he comes to, or she comes to, the CRA board meetings and sets agendas and the like. but needs someone on a day-to-day basis to run the CRA. The bylaws of the CRA has separate bylaws the same way the city has a charter. So the bylaws of the CRA provide the executive director with the authority to hire and fire all of the employees of the CRA. On his
But
or
if
her-
he's appointed as a director, how can you appoint another director?
No, he's the executive director.
Mm-hmm.
He can then hire someone to be whatever he wants to call the position, director, coordinator.
Without
Um,
naming names, it's hard to do this without naming names.
Right.
But okay, I'm naming names. Steve Johnson
Right,
was moved in as they moved Tony Crabb out in
Correct.
2012, and then they appointed Leslie Prudent as the CRA coordinator, I think was his, his title. So Leslie was tasked with running the day-to-day operations while Steve Johnson pulled down a stipend as the actual executive director.
correct.
So whatever you want to call her. Problem is, we just muddied the waters by bringing this up at the same
Correct.
time.
I think the
You-
executive director is trying to be transparent, actually, and provide you with
And
some
I
information. and-
apologize, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, going forward, I don't know how we want to move with this. I mean, first I would like to know what the title of would be given to Ms. Ramo. What would be her title? And
I would probably look to keep the title nomenclature consistent with in the past, just making sure she had the appropriate level of responsibilities associated with running the day-to-day operations.
so you would still get the increase of $20,000?
I would still be here. I'd have to come to all the meetings. I would command a lot of the policy decisions. And actually, she's being paid right now, so we'd probably be talking about maybe some adjustment to her existing compensation. But again, not a matter for right now. This is just me.
So all the other stipends
disclosing.
to other employees would be
reducing-
eliminated?
With her being on full-time, we would have the opportunity to reduce the other stipends, yes.
Reduce or eliminate?
Some we would keep because finance is our fiduciary for the CRA. So, you know, the finance department processes all the checks, does the bank reconciliations, HR, and I don't even think all of HR gets one, but there'd still be a few of them left, yes.
Mr. Chairman.
But it's still, why would finance get an additional stipends just for doing the CRA's work? I mean, I don't understand.
They didn't, if I might, Mr. Mayor, they didn't used to. It used to be that all of those duties were done by the CRA staff. Call it political, call it timing, call it whatever you want. Tony Crapp left, Steve Johnson moved in and brought in Mr. Prudent, and suddenly then stipends needed to be spread out across other people because there weren't enough staff people at the CRA office to handle these things. At least that was the party line. So personally, in my world, we would very soon come back to the scenario where the CRA ran the CRA without you getting a stipend, without anybody in this building getting a stipend. Well, I know the CRA people are back in this building, but you follow what I'm saying. The CRA would have its own CRA staff, and the city would have its own staff, and nobody was crossing beams like they did in Ghostbusters and drawing double down salaries and stuff like that. So personally, I hope this might be the last time we're approving a situation like that by the next budget cycle. Everybody's got clear-cut jobs, duties, titles, and no more cross-pollinating of the money.
So we're gonna have another discussion on Ms. Campbell's salary.
Well, that'll be part of the budget discussion that we will bring forth in September.
I still need to know how I'm going to refer to her.
Ms. Como.
As director, she said director, Mr. Mayor.
Hmm?
Director executive, and she's the director. And if you're looking at the salary right now and the stipend that we're gonna be saving,
why are we
we're
doing
not
that
doing
now?
any
I don't
change, we're changing anything.
We're not supposed, this was not advertised. I'm not prepared to
Again,
discuss it.
We're not gonna vote on this.
I would like to
We
just.
didn't,
No, we
Mr.
just discussed
the
it.
executive
We just,
director could
Okay.
just decide and when some.
It's up to our director.
Yeah.
Is he-
Okay.
I mean,
Again,
Okay.
I was just being transparent
Thank
and
you.
trying to let you know what my immediate action I was gonna try to take. Not to muddy the item of the stipend that's before you.
So my motion to approve, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, was simply to approve the $20,000 stipend and title for Mr. Spring for now. Everything else can fall into place later.
I would second that.
Well, we have a second by Board Member Bieneme.
A second for discussion.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, you want to say something before?
I just know it's, how am I going to refer to?
Whatever he tells us to refer to.
We have a motion on the floor by Board Member Galvin, seconded by Board Member Bieneme.
Didn't
All-
say anything.
Okay, Board Member Keys,
This is muddy.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0. Agenda item number 2, presentations of FY 14 through 15 CRA financial statements.
Good afternoon to the board and to the chairman and to the newly appointed executive director. My name is Michael Vetter. I am the audit manager for HCT Certified Public Accountants and Consultants.
You didn't
And I-
recognize the director.
I'm sorry?
You didn't recognize the director. Appointed by the executive director.
The newly considered director. I have with me tonight Thomas Williams III. He is the senior auditor for our firm. I want to express the apologies, sincere apologies from Mr. Harvey for not being able to be here. He had other commitments. It's that time of the year. Everything is happening at once. But we are here for the North Miami CRA Auditor's Presentation for your fiscal year 2015 financial reports. This next slide just presents a table of contents of what we're going to be covering over the next few minutes. First, it's the purpose. The Community Redevelopment Agency, the North Miami CRA, is an independent government agency that was fully established in 2005 by the City of North Miami and Miami-Dade County under Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes. The North Miami CRA is charged with the responsibility of eliminating conditions of blight that exist within the city and helping to improve the quality of life by revitalizing the city's physical, economic, educational, and social resources. Next slide is the board of directors for the CRA. And in summary, for our audit opinion, it is an unqualified opinion, which means that we didn't have to state any exceptions to having a clean opinion. The statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The next slide is the balance sheet or statement of net position, if you will, for the year ended September 30th for both 2014 and 2015, and it has a comparison that shows that the health has improved between the 2 years for the CRA. The next slide is the statement of revenues and expenditures, and you can see the thing that jumps right out. Again, we've got positive data from this. Revenues are way up, expenditures are down. A lot of that has to do with bringing a lot of the services in-house and consolidating the management of those here and saving money in that manner. So you had a net increase in your position of almost $1 million for the CRA. You ended up at $3.5 million at the end of the year. Then we have our budgetary comparison where, again, the revenues were budgeted at a lower amount than what you had actually been able to collect from the tax revenues. And the expenditures, again, those fluctuate a little bit. And then the last line is the capital outlay, which is an item that continually rolls forward for your planned expenditures that aren't necessarily enacted during the year. Then we go into our management letter comments where we address the prior year findings. And last year there was a significant deficiency related to total payroll expenses filed with federal and state agencies, where we were discussing how the general ledger should agree to the forms that were filed with those agencies, and there was discrepancies there. The agency staff did not file those forms appropriately, and that caused the the finding that we noted last year. The status of our recommendations was that they have been implemented and there was not a repeat for this finding. Secondly, the timesheets and the authorization forms, that again is payroll related. The services came in-house, so simply because of that matter, this has been implemented as well, and it is not a repeat finding. So for the current year, we didn't have any repeat findings and we had no current findings. Nothing of material weakness, no significant deficiencies, or any other items that are required to be reported pursuant to the governmental auditing standards from the Yellow Book. So at this point, if anybody has any questions or anything that you feel you need me to clarify for you, I'd be happy to try to answer as best I can.
If I could, Mr. Chair? Yes, I just wanted to put on the record again, and that this audit was completed within the designated time frame. It was issued on March 24th, ahead of the March 31st deadline that we talked about having for the year. As you can see, it was a clean audit. The finance department, working in conjunction with the CRA staff, was able to get through and work through a lot of the issues and get this audit completed, as well as working diligently with our external auditors. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
And I also want to express our sincerest gratitude to the finance staff and to Ms. Margaret Miller and Mr. Larry Springs for their help in getting this done for us.
Any other comments?
Okay.
No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we get back to work.
Item number 3 now?
Agenda item number 3, discussion regarding a resource officer for the 7th Avenue corridor.
Do we have any presentation either by the sponsor?
No, I don't have any presentation, Mr. Mayor, but after several incident occurred on 119th, and several business owners, including the one that was break into a couple weeks ago, the cell phone owner, they requested if they could at least have some presence of police on 7th Avenue. And the best way I thought of is this possibly be the best way, because I know the residents is one thing, but now we're hearing from the businesses, so that's why I brought this up, to see if we could go ahead and provide that corridor with an officer to patrol the businesses within the business hours. Thank you.
Okay, I understand a couple of months ago we did pass a resolution to appoint either to hire a company or to hire officers for the CRA.
Here, in the downtown.
Oh, only, that's only for the downtown?
Yes.
Okay, now it's for 7th Avenue, okay.
Well, through the chair, if it is the desire of the board, we can follow that same structure, if that is the desire of the board to move forward with the item, to provide for that resource officer.
Yes. Can I say something, Mr. Chair? Since the police department just hired like about 8 new officers, right?
We actually hired
11,
5.
right?
That was the swearing in for a 2-year period, because they weren't sworn in previously. We hired 5 new officers.
You hired 5 new one, and the new one that you're gonna put on 7th Avenue is gonna be cost add to it, or you're gonna redispatch
The
maybe
officers
one of
that you
them too.
saw that were hired or sworn in at the ceremony actually still bring us below the budgeted number of officers allocated to the department in the fiscal year. So we're trying to get back up to our budgeted number. So those officers already have current assignments in which they'll be plugged into. The request was made for additional police services along Northwest 7th Avenue. Prior to discussing the CRA issue, we have increased presence from our community policing unit and our patrol units along Northwest 7th Avenue and 119th Street as a result to the incidents that the councilman has spoken about. So we have increased our police allocation in that corridor.
When you said police allocation, you put a vehicle there with nobody?
No,
Or you
actual,
said increase?
actual
because-
physical people. The vehicle is a deterrent, which you see out there, but we actually assign personnel to go and walk the businesses, and they've gone to the Charlie Brown electronics store numerous times. They've gone through the AutoZone Plaza. They go to the plaza next to it by the post office. So it's physical community policing officers and patrol officers that have targeted that area for enhanced police visibility and enforcement.
You're talking about community policing since
Correct.
that's a high level of crime and Northwest 7th Avenue. Why don't you put a full and like police officer in the area instead of community policing?
And that's one of our proposals. In the short term, we're coming with a proposal for the CRA that is similar to the downtown CRA officer, which provides an additional benefit to that area that is not received across the whole city. So we want to provide an extra layer of police presence, and we have the downtown report that will come up after this. And what we look to do as the department is propose to the CRA in the new CRA fiscal year an actual CRA officer to be in that corridor full-time, not as an off-duty officer, but as a CRA officer. And we've had brief discussion with the CRA about that for the new fiscal year.
Now, so how do we move forward, finally? What do we do? And we need some,
Because I thought, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Chair, that since Northwest 7th Avenue is a hot area, and if we are hiring like 5 new officers, I believe, and even without the CRA input, the police department should and take in consideration the fact that 7th Avenue is a hot area. That's when they should put additional and police officers in that area, and without us putting off-duty officers on Northwest 7.
If I can take off my executive director hat and put on my city manager hat. We're currently working with the chief to look at his operational plan for patrol citywide to see how the police officers, patrol officers are allocated on the street. And I'll be getting back to the city council probably in the next, probably another week or 10 days about the results of some of that review to see, because I think I've heard from each of you that you're looking to have a greater police presence. With regards to the CRA, because it's a business corridor, and I think what the council, the board member, I was about to call you vice mayor, sorry, was asking for was an additional level of service to the business corridor, similar to the additional level of service that's being provided to the downtown, which would normally be allowable under CRA rules, as opposed to our general government allocation.
Yeah, but
So I'll be looking at both.
yeah, definitely look at both, because the danger here, I don't want, even if we do approve this, for the police department to consider, okay, we approved for just one officer to be allocated to that area for the CRA, so therefore they don't need to worry about patrolling or policing and so forth.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Because I'm gonna give it to you. I mean, for months now, I've been talking to Chief Lenny. If I stand on West Dixie Highway for like maybe 30 minutes, I'll see at least maybe 3 or 4 or 5 cars, pass, east, west, or, north, south. But if I stand on 7th Avenue for at least 2 hours, I will not see any police car, pass by. And that has been my experience. And when you talk to the residents, they will tell you. Some of them don't even know what our police cars look like. Okay, and so this has to be well distributed when it comes to policing and ensuring the safety for all the residents of the city. So that's something that I've been stressing very much, with the chief. But I guess if we don't have a united front and come, with some type of policy of our own and ask the chief to implement it, it's probably, never going to happen. I don't know.
So if it is, well, what I will recommend that I do is, in conjunction with the general government allocation that I'm analyzing, come back to this board with a recommendation or an item recommending some additional service similar to that of the downtown corridor for the 7th Avenue corridor. And if you don't mind, I'll work with the board member Desilme on and the police department on developing what that area should look like, construct should look like.
A quick question before, how many employees do you have at the substation? Police officers?
At the workstation,
Yeah.
there's nobody based in there full time. Our officers go in there intermittently throughout the day, and if we have anybody that is on a light duty status, we leave them at the workstation. To leave somebody in the workstation full time, take somebody off the street that can be providing high visibility and other enforcement initiatives. So we try and balance the two between the workstation and actually patrol out on the streets and in the community.
Yeah, but we
That's
do
what
have
we-
some. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Go-
No, I was gonna ask, why do we have the substation when we don't have officers there or people working there full-time?
The workstation was given to the city about 2 years ago. And it was given to the city as part of a CRA redevelopment. It wasn't part of the CRA? Or was this given to the city, the 7th Avenue beautification project? And as part of the 7th Ave beautification project, the owner of the plaza gave the city the last unit in the plaza to use as a community workstation. We never made it a substation for that very reason, because we don't staff it 24/7. We made it a workstation where officers can come in, write reports. If somebody in the community wants to meet with an officer, they can meet them instead of driving to the station. They can meet them at the workstation. We've opened it up to other departments to use if other departments need to use it.
That's when it's not a substation.
It's a workstation. It's a community
It's a
workstation.
workstation.
Oh, I always thought it was a substation where you're gonna have actually, like in District 4, in that area, officers, they don't have to come here. They stay over there and receiving calls and everything for the whole area, commercial and residential area. That's what I thought when we opened that station.
We try to staff it as best we can, but like I said, it's a workstation where the officers come and go. We do from time to time have officers there from 9 to about 3, but they're not there on a permanent basis, and the hours are not posted at the workstation. If somebody from the community wants to meet us there, if a community group wants to use it, we always make it available to meet with residents so they don't have to come to the station. So it's kind of a go-between between the actual station and the west side of the city of North Miami.
So I may go there like at on 11 a.m. and the door may be locked.
It could be, but what
It
we're
could be
trying,
locked.
Most of the time.
Most of the time it's
When I
locked.
pass by,
what our next step is, Chairman, is that we're in negotiations with 50 State Security to put a call box there. Pembroke Pines has a substation on 184th Avenue, just north of Pines. They do the same thing. It's not staffed 24/7. It's for the western part of the community. There's a call button there. When you press that call button, you're directly connected with the dispatcher. There's a camera there so they can see what's going on. They will then tell you, we will have an officer there for you in the next 5 minutes. Please stand by. And they will send somebody there for you. We do our best to staff it. When we have personnel, such as the public service aides, like I said before, a light duty person, somebody that cannot function out on the streets, we staff it. But we see the needs right now currently as being on the streets, as you mentioned, at the businesses on 119th Street, on 7th Ave, West Dixie Highway, Biscayne Boulevard, downtown. So we'd rather put our personnel in the street than in the substation. If the direction is given to the manager and the chief, we can staff it. But we prefer
No, we
right
don't
now
want you
to
to just put someone sitting in there for a full day. We're talking about someone and from the police department understand that this is his office. This is where, after patrolling the street, this is where you need to go, not to come here and spend 2-3 hours and at the main station. That's what I'm talking about. People can see the presence of officers come and go.
And our
inside
officers do
that
come.
station.
Our officers do come and go there because, like I said, they use it as a workstation. So whenever they have to do paperwork, when they come to eat lunch, if they need to use the restroom, we develop that so they don't come all the way back to our station. They can do everything they need to do on the computers and the phone system and everything there So we have encouraged the officers that work on the west side of town to stay on the west side of town and no longer come back to the station for stuff.
Because I saw some stations where, and if you want to have your fingerprint taken, you can go to those stations. You don't have to come to the main office in those cities that you're referring to. But I thought it was a substation. Now I'm just aware that it's just an office. And
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
historically, the term substation means it is staffed 24 hours a day, so that if anybody has an emergency, they can come running up to that window, and there are staff there, equipment there. It is a miniature substation of the police department.
yes,
But that costs a lot of money. So when then Councilwoman Sterrell negotiated this workstation, it should have been called a workstation all along. It was called a substation because politically that sounds better to tell your constituents, I got you a substation, when in reality,
It's not.
we never allocated that type of money toward it and et cetera. So, you know, to call it a workstation is definitely more accurate, and I like the idea of having that call button there. I've never heard that before. I think that's
And we saw it when we went to Pembroke Pines, and we're gonna move towards that. It's just securing the funding, the quotes, and everything else, and the logistics behind it. But that is one of our goals, is to get the call box out there with the camera, so you can press the button, two-way communication, and the
Will there
dispatchers
be a
can see.
language option?
A language option?
Yeah.
You're talking to one of our dispatchers. Our dispatchers, most of the time, we have people that speak multiple languages in our dispatch center. We also have a contract service where if we get somebody that we don't speak the language that they speak, we can have it translated on the phone through the contractual service. So we'll be able to communicate with anybody that's out there pressing the button.
Okay. All right. What's to do now? Do we take a vote or do?
Well, either a vote or a consensus from the board that you would like the executive director to move forward with investigating, placing another officer out there and then bring something back at a later meeting.
No, we can vote on something like you mentioned, similar to the one that we did for the downtown area.
Right, either a vote or a consensus at this point is fine.
Well, I can make that motion to do the same allocation that we did for the downtown, to do it for
Second.
47th Avenue.
Okay, we have a motion by Chairman Joseph to recommending additional service similar to the downtown corridor area, and seconded by Board Member Desrume. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0. Item 5, CRA attorney reports.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I have prepared, and hopefully you all have a copy of this memo that I've prepared. If you don't, it wasn't to be given to you before the meeting to read. It's a take-home homework type memo for your information. So, but I'll give a brief explanation, and I promise to be brief because I know our time is limited. As you may recall, at the February 23rd CRA board meeting, we had a report from the state attorney's office from a Mr. Horn regarding the grand jury report that had recently been prepared following an investigation by the Miami-Dade County Grand Jury. And that report addressed CRAs in general in Miami-Dade County, their spending habits, their operational habits, and made approximately, I think, 29 various recommendations as to how CRAs in Miami-Dade County can be improved, from things such as providing more affordable housing, more fiscal accountability and transparency, to including citizens on the CRA board, to providing ethics training for the CRA board staff and members of their advisory committees. So in response to that report, which was widely circulated throughout the media and the county, Miami-Dade County itself now has proposed legislation to implement a number of the recommendations of the grand jury report. And that legislation is being sponsored by Commissioner Daniela Levine Cava. And attached to the memorandum, I did a memorandum basically summarizing what's happening, where we are in the approval process, or the county is in the approval process with this resolution, the background, and then summarizing those items from the resolution that would affect us as a CRA, including 3 resolutions that were previously adopted by the county that will affect us. And the reason they affect us is because we have an interlocal agreement with the county. We have a contract that says what our rights and responsibilities are. In order for the county to change that, we would have to be asking the county for something. So and we are asking for an extension to our life. We're asking for an amendment to our redevelopment plan to be approved. So because of that, we're opening up our relationship with the county and our agreement with the county. So whether or not this resolution goes forward, a number of these items will probably be part of our negotiation with the county, and I was very happy to hear from the executive director that he actually had a conversation today, and we are moving forward with the county on that amendment to our interlocal. So with respect to this actual resolution, though, that the county is proposing, as you know, things need to go to the committee first, which is 7 members of the full 13 members of the Board of County Commissioners. In this particular case, as with our items, it goes to the Economic Prosperity Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Xavier Suarez. I was at the meeting in March, and no action was taken because there was not a quorum. They lacked a quorum. They lost a quorum halfway through the meeting before this item was heard. So it is on the agenda for the EPC meeting of April 14th, which is this Thursday. I will be there. One of maybe the CRA director will be there in order to basically monitor the proceedings. Based upon the folks who showed up at the last meeting, there will be other executive directors and people interested in CRAs who will be commenting on these items. You know, from a critical standpoint, I've been through them. I can tell you there's a number of things here in this CRA that we already do that the grand jury and both the county are implementing. For example, when you give a grant agreement, that you require some community benefits. And we've required that in the form of local hiring by those entities. For example, when we gave the $250,000 grant to Polio Tropical, we had a hiring requirement and a very high level. The clawback provisions that are being implemented. In other words, where you give a grant agreement and the entity that receives the grant doesn't live up to their end of the bargain, you have the ability to then go and get your money back. And we've done that on a number of occasions with multiple grantees. In fact, when Ms. Camo first started with the CRA, we went down the list of grants, and I think we recovered approximately, what was it, $300,000 or so? Something of that along those lines. So I will tell you that there are things in here that we already do. There are things in here that will be part of our negotiation. Some of the resolutions that were previously passed by the county require that when you amend your interlocal, that a county commissioner may be placed on your board. So that's already law at the county. So that's something they will probably be including. They required us to provide an assessment of need, which went through our existing plan because we are in excess of 10 years. We already submitted that to the county as part of our application. So I think that we're ahead of the curve on this. I think the things that are in here will provide more accountability, more transparency, and will provide for a better CRA operation all around. So I suggest and encourage you to take this home, read it. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. Please feel free to call me or email me with any questions.
All right.
We'll keep you informed as this resolution moves through the county process. We do anticipate there will be some changes because there's been input already with the county staff and Ms. Levine Cava's office, and we anticipate some changes, but in the end of the day, it's something that's going to, I think, be beneficial for all the CRAs. Thank you. If
Okay.
you have any questions tonight, I'm happy to answer them as well.
Mr. Chair, just one comment. I'd like to maybe speak with you each individually over the next day or two. So when we do go to that meeting, if there are any comments that you'd like to see us make on the record, we can do so for the meeting on
Okay.
Thursday.
I understand. Do we have an annual report, 14-15, for now?
Next item. Thank you.
As per the state statute, we're required to submit an annual report by March 31st, which we have done. It has been advertised in the paper. It's also available on our website and at the city clerk's office. The annual report for the fiscal year 14-15 outlines the work that we have done for that fiscal year. There is a narrative on page 5 that shows some of the grants that we're able to provide, the before and after pictures, the capital projects that we completed during that time frame, and also a basic narrative on the work that we've done to get our plan, an updated redevelopment plan, and getting our extension approved. It is just a basic annual report. This was also filed at the State Department of Economic Opportunities and with Miami-Dade County as required by state
I
statute.
see Cafe
So we are in
Cream.
compliance.
Where's Cafe Cream?
That, we gave them the grant in that fiscal year.
No,
so
no,
it's
in terms of
documented.
their permitting and with Miami-Dade.
They've passed most of their inspections. We've been taking some pictures and so on. It'll take a few more months for you to see the outside part of the work to be done, but they've been working more on the inside, so it is moving along nicely.
Okay.
And the other part of the report is regarding the downtown police officer, Major Beige, would you mind?
Good thing I'm slender so I can fit through. The downtown. Some real quick highlights for the downtown CRA officer. They made 628 business contacts where they actually went into businesses, talked with either the owner, the management, the clerk, somebody in the store, and engaged them in some type of productive conversation. They assisted in answering 79 calls for service in the CRA block. And just for anybody following along, the CRA block is from 6th Ave to 10th Ave, from 123 to 126. So it encompasses the downtown, the core of the downtown area, and the municipal complexes right here. They also engaged 2,150 people that were visitors to the CRA. They made some type of contact with them. So they're definitely out there talking and interacting with the community. And one of the successes for the program is that we've been able to get the officers to slow down. They're not driving through, they're not going from call to call. They actually have time to actually interact with people and businesses in the CRA corridor. Some of the highlights real quick is that a few trespassers had been arrested from businesses where they had disturbances at the businesses. One big highlight was a sexual offender that was loitering in the parking lot between the Bank of America and the Chase parking lot, and where the bushes are right there between the parked cars. The CRA officer approached him. The guy was suspicious, ran the person's name. He came back with a warrant for sexual predator registration. So that was a very good arrest that the officer had made during the CRA detail. Another good arrest was Miami-Dade County had just issued a BOLO, be on the lookout, for an aggravated assault subject that occurred just south of here in the county. And our CRA officer stopped the described person right here in front of City Hall, which was another good win for the CRA team that was out there. We've also assisted in removing 2 disorderly people from City Hall, and they've assisted in several events such as the Mocha, the Jazz in the Plaza, the Art Walks, the 90th birthday, and other events. A real quick description of some of the crimes that occurred in the CRA district over the past 3 months. There were 7 crimes that were Part 1 crimes. Of the 7, they're in the report. They were all had some type of careless nature to them, where somebody left a wallet in a shopping cart, they left a back door open. So these are the types of things that when the CRA officers go to the businesses or the people walking in the CRA district, that's what they talk to them about. They've also identified various code issues and other issues in the CRA, and they kind of serve as a conduit for the businesses and the people in the community between the police department and the city. And a final thing to end on is a great partnership that was established with the banks in the CRA. There had been an ongoing scam at the ATMs, and the banks were kind of puzzled on how it was going on and what was actually going on. But there were several victims and hundreds of dollars that were fraudulently withdrawn from the ATMs. Through the partnership established with the CRA officer and our investigative section, They're able to bring that case to a conclusion and apprehend the subjects that were basically skimming the information off the ATMs and watching the pins over people's shoulders. So we were able to stop that from happening, and since the arrest was made, there haven't been any other reports at the Bank of America or the Chase, and Bank of America actually wrote a very nice letter that I included in the CRA report, thanking the CRA officers for their continued commitment to the bank and to the community of North Miami. And we've also received other positive comments from residents and business owners about the success of the CRA officer in the downtown area. So it's basically exceeded all our expectations for the CRA officer in the downtown area. And Chief, I don't know if you have anything to add to it, or?
I think you covered it extremely well. One thing I want to mention is it's a very proactive community policing module that works, and I like that opportunity for the West Side to enhance that same type of initiative. We would get the same results. It's been nothing but positive in the sense of the business owner, so we look forward to doing that.
All right, thank you very much. We get to the point of public comments now, if there is any. Any comment from the public? All business?
Mr. Mayor, real quick question for the attorney. On Thursday, reviewing this recommendations and some of the highlights under number 12, the ethic training, I don't know if somebody gonna mention it, but if they don't, please mention it that all elected officials already have a 8-hour and a 4-hour training from the Ethic Commission, unless this is something specific. It's just gonna create more headaches. I understand that maybe the staff and the advisory committee don't, but we have 8-hour, and they passed it, the county commission, and then on top of that, a 4-hour that we have to take. So just that they'll just be mindful about that.
I appreciate that. That is correct. I mean, some of these things are actually belts and suspenders on things that are already occurring. Obviously, as elected officials, you all go through that ethics training. This could also apply to, there are some CRAs where there are not elected officials who serve as the board members. They're appointed, like the Naranja Lakes Community Redevelopment Agency. And certainly our advisory board members are not required to do that, and staff is not required. But I've been through those courses myself as both a lobbyist and an elected official as well, and they're very helpful. So that you know, the more training, the better. But we'll certainly mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as new business, I would like to mention the possibly entertaining at our next meeting the garage, the mixed-use garage where we are, and possibility for bids and those type of things.
Just through the chair very quickly, we have been approached by a few interested parties who would be interested in entering into possibly a public-private partnership with the city CRA to redevelop the garage here and our properties to the north of 125th, the two garages on the north side. We've had probably sat in now on maybe 4 or 5 meetings with those parties and kind of gone through some level of numbers, nothing concrete. Obviously, if we went to that, we'd have to do a whole bid process. So this is more getting a feel for, what's out there in the market, who has interest, and there's certainly some interest. And I think they haven't, some of the stuff they didn't want to release as public record because they didn't want to be subject to being the stalking horse if we did do a bid. But some of the renderings I think you guys would really like. They're talking about a garage, maybe inserting some park space here adjacent to City Hall. So some exciting, some exciting opportunities. So I'll make a full report on that at the next meeting.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.
Adjourn at 6:40.
6:40.